I built an unbeatable Beyblade deck, but first, this story starts with failure. My failure, to be exact. In 2025, I won 7 tournaments. I placed second 8 times, including at Baycon. I finished in the top 5% across 3 different states. I knew how to win, but what I didn't know was how to adapt. After 5 months of rebuilding and failing, I entered the next tournament with a completely different deck. 2 new combos, and 1 combo I finally learned to trust again. Drop a the like and subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. I spent over 50 hours on it, so if it flops, I might cry. Okay, thanks, bye, back to the video. For months, I did what most bladers do when they stop winning. Parts, I swapped bits and ratchets over and over again. I used combos that were doing well on WBO, and every time I thought I was getting closer, I really wasn't, because I wasn't solving the real problem. I studied every loss and every extreme finish, overfinish, spin finish from all of my games that I recorded, not just what was winning, but why. These combos started defining the meta. I call them the big 3. Hover Wyvern 960 kick, Shark Scale 170 low rush, Wizard Rod 160 hexa. And here's the scary part. They don't share any parts. That was not the deck I wanted to use, but rather they were the benchmark I wanted to help me understand how to adapt and win. The first combo that really changed how I thought about deck building was actually Hover Wyvern 960 kick. It didn't rely purely on overwhelming attack power or stamina. Instead, it combined controlled aggression with survivability in a way that very few combos could. Originally released as a Hasbro exclusive alongside Impact Drake and the Drop Attack Stadium set, Hover Wyvern quickly proved itself to be far more than just another release. The uneven weight distribution of Hover Wyvern made stability incredibly important. The 960 helped center its movement, reducing unnecessary wobble and minimizing burst risk, especially from exposed contact points. But the real key was kick. Kick is technically classified as a balance bit, but in practice is considered more of an attack type. Its angled edges allow it to retain stamina while still producing aggressive movement patterns, especially when interacting with the extreme rail. With 12 gears, 2 more than rush and low rush, kick generates stronger extreme dashes while still preserving enough stamina to win extended battles. Normally this kind of movement comes with risk. Self-pocketing is always a possibility, especially with kick. The Hover Wyvern's shape actually changes that equation. Its design allows it to recover from pocket positions more consistently, something that most combos can't safely do without ratchets like 160, which meant Hover Wyvern wasn't just aggressive, it was sustainable. Aero Pegasus has been with me since the beginning. It wasn't just another blade, it was the blade that spoke to me, and it told me together that we would win. But as the meta shifted, Aero Pegasus started falling behind, not because it wasn't good, but because I needed to adapt so that it could evolve. The problem was how I was building around it. I originally ran Aero Pegasus on 360 level, which helped me win my first major tournament and earn the role of attack type gym leader within the RVBA community. Level gave Aero Pegasus incredible versatility. It could score explosive extreme finishes, over finishes, and still retain enough stamina to win longer battles with spin finishes. But it came with a risk. As the meta shifted towards combos like Hover Wyvern and Shark Scale, Level became harder to control. Its 16 gear structure required precise launch timing, and aggressive early movement often led to self-knockouts or loss of stamina before meaningful contact. I tried alternatives. Kick improved stamina retention, but it lacked consistency. It just doesn't have the blade shape like Hover Wyvern. Jolt and Hexa allowed for more counterattack oriented builds, but introduced critical weaknesses against left spin stamina types like Cobalt Dragoon and Meteor Dragoon. Eventually, I tried Rush. Rush improved attack consistency and increased knockout potential, but introduced a different problem. When paired with 160, Aero Pegasus became unstable in late game stamina situations. That's when I realized that the issue wasn't the bit, it was actually the ratchet. I switched to 960 and that changed everything. The increased stability improved stamina retention, reduced burst risk, and allowed Aero Pegasus to maintain balance deeper into battles. It also improved launch consistency, making aggressive opening safer and late game recovery more reliable. Aero Pegasus 960 Rush didn't just hit hard, it survived long enough to win consistently. And that consistency is what my deck had been missing. For the first time in months, it felt complete. If Wyvern represented controlled aggression, Shark Scale represented optimized attack power. Its low blade profile allows it to make consistent contact with opposing ratchets. Most blades struggle when using taller ratchets. Increased height usually means increased exposure. Shark Scale broke that rule. Because the blade sits so low, even when paired with 170, it maintains a contact height similar to many 60 height combinations. This allowed it to benefit from the advantages of 170 without inheriting the usual risks. The 170 improved its ability to escape pockets and recover from unfavorable positions, while Low Rush amplified its attack power. Low Rush with a flat contact surface and high mobility maximizes attack output and increases the likelihood of a decisive knockout. Together, Shark Scale 170 Low Rush created a combo that was fast, efficient, and incredibly difficult to shut down. My Shark Scale combo was one of the biggest evolutions in my deck, not because of its raw strength, but because of how differently I learned to use it. When Shark Scale first released, I initially paired it with 450 Kick. At the time, 450 was the lowest ratchet available, and on paper, it seemed like the perfect match. Shark Scale's low blade profile already minimized exposure, and lowering the ratchet height even further should have improved its stability and attack efficiency. Kick complemented this approach by providing aggressive movement while still retaining stamina through its angled contact points. And when it worked, it was incredibly strong, but it just wasn't that reliable. Despite its low height, 450 still suffered from the same fundamental weakness that it has historically affected all four-sided ratchets: excessive burst exposure. Even on a blade as low as Shark Scale, burst risk remained a problem, so I transitioned to 170 and 180 with Low Rush. These combinations improved burst resistance and increased attack consistency, and for a time, they performed really well. The Low Rush introduced a different problem: control. Its aggressive movement pattern often led to unnecessary stamina loss, rail scraping, and self-knockouts. The combo was powerful, but it just wasn't flexible, and flexibility was what I needed. Everything changed when I played in an Infinity Stadium tournament for the first time. The stadium punished uncontrolled movement severely, and it forced me to rethink how I approached attack combinations. That's when I tested Shark Scale on 170 Low Orb. Low Orb dramatically improved launch precision, movement control, stamina retention, allowing Shark Scale to remain effective deep into battles rather than relying entirely on early knockouts. Low Orb still allowed it to keep a low profile just like Low Rush did, but even Low Orb had limitations. During extreme dashes, stamina loss was still significant, and prolonged battles against other stamina-focused combinations exposed this weakness. That's when I looked into Freeball. This allowed Shark Scale to remain aggressive when needed, while still maintaining the stamina necessary to win extended battles. Paired with 170, Shark Scale retained improved pocket recovery, increased recoil, and greater overall survivability. It could attack when needed, it could defend when necessary, and most importantly, it could survive long enough to win consistently. That flexibility made it irreplaceable. While other combos relied on knockout power or mobility, Wizard Rod focused on consistency above all else. Its weight distribution and circular shape made it one of the most stable blades in Beyblade X. Paired with the 160 ratchet, Wizard Rod gained increased resistance to overfinishes while giving it knockout power, recoiling attacks from other bays into the very pockets that Wizard Rod hopped out of. Hex's sharp tip reduces surface friction, improving stamina, while its hexagonal structure provides recovery points that help it recenter itself after a heavy impact. And this made me realize something important. Winning wasn't always about hitting harder, sometimes it was just about refusing to lose. My relationship with Wizard Rod has always been a little complicated. As a blader, I've never really been drawn to stamina types. My playstyle has always leaned towards aggression, control, and forcing outcomes, not waiting for them. The last time I used Wizard Rod 160 Hexa was at Bacon. I moved the 160 ratchet from Wizard Rod to Aero Pegasus and replaced it with 170, because you see my Aero Pegasus kept bursting on 360, so I made a last minute decision so that I could put 160 on AP. At the time, it seemed like a minor adjustment. The increased height introduced additional exposure and instability, especially when combined with Hex's 16 gears. For match point, Wizard Rod initiated an extreme dash and slammed into the rail. That added exposure from 170 caused a burst finish just as it was extreming the Dram Buster. I reviewed the footage recently and realized the truth. Wizard Rod had been performing exactly as it should have. The failure wasn't in the combo, It was in the change that I made without fully thinking it through. The original combo, Wizard Rod 160 Hexa, is widely considered one of the strongest combinations in Beyblade X for a reason. Once I corrected this mistake, its performance immediately made an impact. Wizard Rod didn't just fill a gap in my deck, it restored balance to it. Aero Pegasus gave me stability, Shark Scale gave me flexibility, and Wizard Rod, that gave me reliability. And together, they became the deck that was unbeatable. If you thought I was saving the best for last, you'd be almost right. Other than the fact that Jaykev was ranked the #1 blader last year, and he's my first opponent. He's also my teammate in Team Trinity, so this could get intense. I land an extreme finish, so let's see if Wizard Rod can help me take home the first set. I slightly adjust my launch angle at the last minute to try and catch Jaykev off guard by landing on the shoulder and avoiding the ratchet snipe, which works out perfectly. I nearly get extreme from an X dash from Shark, but thankfully I retained a lot of stamina from my initial launch by avoiding the first several blows, and Wizard Rod tanks it like a pro.
Survivor finish.
Jaykev pulls out the big guns on his ace combo Tyranno Beat 170 Kick, which is a really smart counter to Shark's upper attacks with Tyranno Beat's down smashing abilities. Kick also has great stamina with the potential to outspin Shark on free ball if he can't hit me enough to drain my stamina. This counter was honestly extremely impressive decision that he made basically on the fly. Hopefully Wizard Rod can even the score, or at the very least tie up the set. I launch pretty aggressively, which is honestly how I generally use Wizard Rod, but in this particular matchup, my goal is to avoid sitting still so that I don't let Blast weight bully Wizard Rod into a pocket. Blast generally has low stamina, being a top heavy CX bay, and if I can avoid getting hit, I should be able to land a spin finish in the end.
Survivor finish.
I saved the best for last with my ace Beyblade Aero Pegasus. And it's a good thing I did because it usually has a good matchup against Shark Scale. By being able to tank hits really well due to the weight and shape of the blade,
With an extreme finish.
Aero Pegasus lands an extreme finish on Shark, proving why it's the original best attack type blade in the game. Next up is Cross Shadow, the stamina type gym leader in our community. I'm using primarily balance type combos, so I'm going to have to really rely on my skills to make up the gap in type advantage. That's fine with me because games are more fun that way anyways. We start off in a mirror match, but there is one huge difference, and that's because I'm on Hexa and he's on Freeball. I had a feeling he would lead with Wizard Rod, and I usually win in mirror matches, but I should have known it wasn't going to be that simple. Honestly, I shouldn't have underestimated going up against the stamina type gym leader. I went Aero Pegasus second this time because I thought he would put Dragoon last so that I could pair Shark against it to earn a potential burst. If that backfires hard,
Finish.
that's okay though, because he ends up running Hot Mirage last, which is usually pretty easy burst finish for Shark Scale to take home, which does end up tying up the set. I don't take any chances and I put Shark in front this time, knowing that 2 out of 3 of his bays have a disadvantage at potentially being bursted against Shark. I figured I should try and earn another burst finish as quickly as possible, but he leads with Wizard Rod again. That being said, this is where Shark on Freeball demonstrates just how reliable it can be by destabilizing Wizard Rod and outspinning it. Cross Shadow launches Dragoon at a really strong angle, I assume to shield elevate, but it ends up backfiring on him. After reshuffling for the new set, we both end up sticking with the same leading base from before. Shark refuses to lose and hops out of the extreme, counterattacks Wizard Rod into a pocket, which is absolutely insane. I'm certain I can't outspin Clock Mirage with Wizard Rod, so I aim for a burst by launching at a strong angle. And thankfully this works because I strike his ratchet several times, which eventually causes a burst, winning me the second set and the match. We have another tough opponent, so it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to relax anytime soon. Eevee shows up to every practice in nearly every single tournament, so he always gets his reps in, and I doubt he will be pulling any punches today, so neither will I. He starts off strong, earning 3 points in an extreme finish against my Wizard Rod, so it looks like I was right about the punches. I land a really smooth drop launch, but his Scorpio Spear easily interrupts it with its weight, and the recoil sends it into a pocket, earning me 2 points. Time for a comeback, and if any of my bays can make it happen, it's gonna be Aero Pegasus. He tanks some hits, but at the cost of getting knocked off balance.
Survivor finish.
We reshuffle and I check for parts just as I always do before every launch. It's a tied game with sharks in the water, and mine happens to be a cannibal.
Knockout finish. Second set.
I lead with Aero Pegasus, knowing it will have a solid matchup versus Shark or Mummy, and I like those odds. Both Aero Pegasus and Mummy pocket hop, but AP spends a lot more time in that pocket. I guess it was kind of comfortable. So after losing all that stamina, it loses the spin finish. Shark takes home a spin finish, tying up the set. Eevee is running the same combo as I am on Shark, but I still end up taking the spin on Wizard Rod, thankfully. Shark fights tooth and nail, even though it doesn't have any nails, against Scorpio Spear on Hexa, and comes out on top. Now I just need one more point to win the match, and I have just the combo to do it with. I have partnered with MoMos models to create a special slip grip that is optimized to help you launch like a pro with my new signature collection series. You can find a link to their online store in my link tree, which is in the description below. So get yours today and start launching like a pro. You can use this discount code to save 10% off of anything in the store. This is also where I got my sliding door deck box that you've seen throughout today's tournament. Now, let's get back to the tournament so that I don't get penalized for missing my match. So far, I've gone undefeated for the first 3 rounds of Swiss, but that could all change because now I have to face off against my other teammate Nitrox. If he looks familiar, that's because he recently won a 100-blader tournament on the first day of Beyblade South, and then followed up with being in the top 8 in an even bigger tournament the very next day. Not to mention, he was ranked number 3 in Arkansas last year, so I could be cooked. He leads with his ace combo Shark Scale 560 low rush just as I thought he might, but countering with Wizard Rod turns out to be not enough as he earns 2 points from an overfinish. I tie up the game by living up to the name Baybreaker with a burst finish. Looks like we both had the same idea as we both send out Aero Pegasus as our third bay. Nitrox uses flat launch tech a lot, so I go for a bank shot off the rail knowing he would be near the center of the stadium, but I just barely missed, so now it's a battle of pure RPM. I managed to knock him into a pocket, but he hops out saving himself, but at the cost of losing just enough stamina for my Aero Pegasus to come out on top.
Survivor finish.
I have the advantage and I can't afford to let up now, so I lock in by calling upon my inner Jaykev by flipping my hat upside down to become none other than Bayfixer.
An extreme finish.
I immediately earn an extreme finish against his Aero Pegasus with my Shark, which means the upside down hat is doing its job. Wizard Rod told me it wanted a rematch against Shark. And who am I to deny a wizard his revenge?
Survivor finish.
And speaking of rematches, I drop launch Shark, hoping for another burst, but Dragoon isn't having any of that this time around, and nearly knocks me out. And after getting tossed around like a ragdoll, Dragoon takes the spin finish. If you haven't figured it out yet, this entire second set has been a rematch. And this time around, Nitrox wins another one. Nitrox moves Aero Pegasus to his first slot, most likely aiming for an overfinish with AP, knowing I would most likely keep Shark in my first slot, which is a really smart move from his end, because he ends up landing an extreme finish, tying up the sets, which is the first time for this tournament. I change it up, and so does he, with my Wizard Rod versus his Shark. I had a feeling he would lead with the Shark, so that he could try and end things quickly. We both nearly pocket each other several times, but Wizard Rod 160 Hexa reminds everyone why it's the #1 combo in the game right now.
Survivor finish.
Shark Scale and Dragoon have their third rematch, and I launch near the center hoping to recoil Dragoon either into a pocket or hit it into the rail, causing it to self-KO, which works out just as I predicted. We match Aero Pegasus versus Aero Pegasus again. So now, it's all up to blader skill and RPM to see who comes out on top. And after several big hits, my Aero Pegasus comes out ahead, winning me the set and the match.
Survivor finish.
After that match with Nitrox, I'm super locked in. Let's see if I can finish this last round of Swiss undefeated. I start off strong with an extreme with my Shark Scale on free ball. Now it's Wizard Rod versus Scorpio Spear, which is also on Hexa, so I should outspin in this matchup most of the time.
Survivor finish. Second set.
I go to drop launch Shark Scale, but end up hitting Nightmail just right, taking yet another burst finish. Now I know Wizard Rod could potentially outspin Wolf, but it could be a toss-up, so I don't take any chances and I go for a more aggressive launch, aiming for knockout.
Knockout finish.
This must be karma because after that clean sweep in the last match, I now have to play Jaykev again in the first round of finals, which is now single elimination. And the odds of beating Jaykev twice in a tournament in the same day are pretty slim to say the least. I start off with a pretty clean delayed drop launch on Shark Scale, but Jaykev counters with the 50-50, avoiding the drop attack and nearly counters me into a pocket. After exchanging a few blows, Shark just barely takes a spin finish.
Survivor finish.
Jaykev follows up with his signature Bay Tyranno beat against my Wizard Rod, and it seems like he might have been going for a snipe here, which kind of backfires, sending him flying, which causes it to lose control and self-KO.
Knockout finish.
Aero Pegasus is my go-to third Bay, and I think Jaykev knows this by now, which is why he puts Blast last, being capable of tanking hits from Aero Pegasus and weight bullying it. But AP recoils it into the extreme before giving it the chance, winning me the first set. Next, I change it up and lead with Wizard Rod, so I can secure an early point into the second set. This time, we both get really clean launches off and trying to beat nearly Extreme's Wizard Rod. But it tanks it and outspins it.
Survivor finish.
Jaykev launches another 50-50 with Wizard Rod, but Shark being on free ball continues to show just how flexible this combo can be.
Survivor finish.
With a 2-point lead in the second set, I'm hoping Aero Pegasus can take it home with 2 points or more. Jaykev aims straight for AP with Blast, but I counter with a delayed drop launch again, avoiding the impact, which causes Blast to catch the rail, which ends up landing some really big blows and nearly knocking out Aero Pegasus, but AP doesn't let up and outspins Blast in the end. For the reshuffle, I put the combo I know can basically handle anything, which has been my Shark Scale and Free Ball. But Jaykev is using his Tyranno Beat, and I know better than to underestimate it. Tyranno Beat lands some pretty big hits and nearly knocks Shark into a pocket, but Shark doesn't let up and hops right back out, but after losing so much stamina, it barely ends up losing the spin finish.
Survivor finish.
And in the most anticlimactic way possible, I end up winning the match whenever Blast goes for a joyride and settles in a pocket just as soon as it lands, securing my spot in the semifinals. With both Jaykev and Nitrox eliminated from the tournament, I felt like I might actually have a chance to win it all. But the hardest match of the tournament had yet to come, so surely my luck was about to run out. There's no way I'm going to be able to beat a gym leader for the second time as well, right? I lead with Shark Scale, like usual, and just like before, he starts off with Wizard Rod. Wizard Rod actually ends up taking the spin finish, being on free ball, which isn't too surprising to be honest. What was surprising was Dragoon knocking out my Wizard Rod, and now Cross Shadow has a 3-point lead, which makes me very nervous. Last is Aero Pegasus versus Clock Mirage, and I either need to get a knockout, otherwise this is going to be a very uphill match. Clock Mirage tanks all my hits, and I lose the first set without scoring even a single point. I follow up with Wizard Rod in my first slot for the second set, hoping he also starts with Wizard Rod, which you would have thought by now I'd have learned better after the last time because history tends to repeat itself.
Survivor finish.
Next up is Shark versus Dragoon, and I launch at a strong tilt with the Hulk to land a burst finish, but I actually end up recoiling him into a pocket, so hopefully this is where I make a comeback in this game. Next is a rematch between Aero Pegasus and Clock Mirage, and I completely screw up my launch by landing straight into the rail, which kicks it off into the middle of the stadium, and it ends up losing a lot of stamina, losing the power it would have needed to land a crit. Eventually gets outspun just like before.
Survivor finish.
Cross Shadow just needs 2 more points to win this match, but I'm not going to make it easy for him. Aero Pegasus pulls a Storm Pegasus with the Star Blast attack bursting the Wizard Rod, winning me the second set, making this a tied game. This time, I completely changed my deck order by putting Wizard Rod last, finally learning my lesson to avoid using it against his stamina combos. Now, it's Shark Scale versus Wizard Rod on Free Ball, which is a bit of a toss-up because if Shark doesn't land some critical hits or to stabilize Wizard Rod, it could easily get outspun or even get recoiled into a pocket just like before. But this time is different.
because Shark actually ends up doing just that and takes the spin finish.
Survivor finish.
Next up is Aero Pegasus versus Dragoon, which again ends up being a pretty difficult matchup. As Dragoon barely takes the spin.
Survivor finish.
Next up is Wizard Rod versus Clock Mirage, and to be honest, I was hoping to have won before getting to this third slot, so I launched with all my strength, which to my surprise actually ends up outspinning the Clock Mirage.
Survivor finish.
Next up, Aero Pegasus, with the goal of winning 2 or more points. Cross Shadow ties up the score, and now it's anyone's game.
Survivor finish.
I predicted that if Aero Pegasus couldn't take home the win, the worst case scenario, it would lose a spin finish, and I could match Shark Scale versus his Dragoon, which he's kept in his second slot every single time, in order to aim for burst, which ends up winning me the set and the
First
match.
finish.
That was by far the most stressful match of the tournament so far, but now it's time for the grand finals, and at this point, I felt unbeatable. Leaplid is known as one of the best Leon players in the game. Leaplid is also the balance type gym leader and belongs to Team Lupo, which is the second highest ranked team in our community, with Team Trinity being ranked at number 1. Needless to say, this was going to be an intense match. Even our game of rock, paper, scissors was intense. I drop launch and install Wizard Rod to avoid Nightmail's attacks, but Nightmail had different plans. Fortunately, Wizard Rod didn't get hit very hard and ends up outspinning.
Survivor finish.
Next up is Aero Pegasus versus Mummy, which we already got a taste of going up against Eevee, but I feel confident in this matchup. And Aero Pegasus ends up winning the spin finish.
Survivor finish.
I used Shark last, hoping to throw her off because I usually use it first, which works out, being able to outspin her Leon Crest.
Survivor finish.
I have a 3-point lead, but all of those points have only been from spin finishes. I know I only need one more point to win. I always try to win using Aero Pegasus whenever it comes to a set or a match. And Aero Pegasus doesn't disappoint by earning 2 points and winning us the first set with a grueling sweep. Fun fact, I actually learned how to properly take a stance by watching Leaplid. Even though I use a winder launcher and she uses string, I applied the same concept in my launches of using your entire body when you launch, which is displayed pretty elegantly in these matches. Leaplid knocks out my Shark with Nightmail, which isn't surprising with how good Nightmail is against attack type combos. Pegasus wins the Mummy matchup again, but Leaplid still has a point lead in this set, so I'm not letting my guard down. Wizard Rod outspins Crest, which is generally not a great matchup for Crest. Now we are tied up on points in the set. I land a super clean stall with Aero Pegasus, but end up missing a lot of attacks on the Nightmail, losing the spin finish.
Survivor finish.
And then, yet again, in a very anticlimactic way, I end up winning the match due to a self-KO into the Extreme Zone, winning me the tournament undefeated for 8 matches in a row.
Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the finals.